Hello, my name's Robert. I'm doing this brief video because I've seen so much confusion regarding the upcoming referendum of a voice to Parliament that's to be held on the 14th of the 10th, 2023. And I want to put some clear and simple truths forward for you to consider before you vote. Firstly, I declare that the views I am about to share are entirely mine, and that I am not, nor have I ever been, a member or supporter of any political party. I also declare that I have not been directed to make this video, have and will not accept any form of payment or other gratuity. As well, links to the websites are being provided for you to easily verify that the information that I am providing is true and correct, and from highly reputable publicly available sources. Please do the research, as there is much more than I can talk about in a short video. I'll start with what I found when I researched the yes side. The yes vote is based on the Uluru Statement from the Heart, an extensive collaboration conducted in 12 regional places around the country of Australia. Here, consultations involving Aboriginal and Torres Strait people took place with Aboriginal and Torres Strait peoples for Aboriginal and Torres Strait peoples. These discussions finished, and it was all brought together in 2017 at the National Constitutional Convention at Uluru in the Northern Territory. This provided a respectful, concise, well-written set of statements on one A4 size sheet of paper, outlining what is required to help mend the gulf created nearly 250 years ago when the invasion of the white man began, culminating in genocide, rape, murders, imprisonment, removal of children, theft, destruction of religions and cultures, country, food and water security, the right to freely travel, trade practices and many other atrocities that I'm certain none of you would want to have happen in yours or your family's lifetimes. This referendum asks us to decide whether we, the people of Australia, do or do not agree that it would provide better outcomes for the Indigenous peoples of Australia and of the Torres Strait Islands if they are recognised as the first inhabitants of these lands, and that this is recorded as such in the Constitution. As the First Nations people of this land, they, and not the government, will be able to establish a permanent advisory group that will enable and ensure that correct, relevant and pertinent information is provided regarding laws, programs and requirements that apply to enhance living conditions of the Indigenous peoples of Australia and the Torres Strait Islands. And lastly, that Parliament will continue to be the ultimate place of instituting the creation of laws of Australia. Most of all, the request is for truth telling and makarata, a form of bringing agreement, peace and therefore prosperity to all peoples of this land through dialogue and understanding. What I found out when I researched the no side. Originally I found a lot of dubious claims through to outright lies, so I decided to research the main characters and disregard sources that claim things such as the Uluru Statement from the Heart was a 26-page document that was too confusing to understand. I went to the dialogue put forward by the main voices of the no option, and this seemed to be mainly of political origin. What I have found is a clear history of the coalition parties, National and Liberal, saying no to many things of importance to the peoples of Australia and the Pacific region. This is but a snapshot. There is more. The National Party, through David Littleproud, leader of the Federal National Party, part of the Federal Coalition, came out on the 28th of the 11th, 2022, as reported through 9 News and most of the mainstream media, and stated they would be supporting the no position for a referendum question that hadn't yet been formalised. I contemplated this for a while as I could clearly see what was being said and wondered what wasn't being said. I concluded that it was no to having a civilised dialogue, no to understanding the pain, suffering and needs of others, no to doing anything different to what has happened over the past 250 years. This was followed on the 5th of the 4th, 2023, as reported by The Guardian and other mainstream media outlets, when Peter Dutton, leader of the Federal Liberal Party, also said that the Liberals, the other partner of the federal coalition, would also be voting no. At this point I remembered something from the past, when Peter Dutton, Tony Abbott, the then Prime Minister, and Scott Morrison shared a stage making jokes about the process of being kept waiting, known in Liberal ranks as operating under Cape York time. According to Peter Dutton, the then Immigration Minister, who went on joking about rising sea levels, a real and present danger to the island peoples of the Pacific Ocean, quote, "Time doesn't mean anything when you're, about to have the water lapping at your door," end quote. All of which was captured on camera, with sound. Not only doesn't Peter Dutton say no to listening, but he also doesn't want to be listened to when he goes off script, refusing to discuss the incident later beyond saying that it was a private conversation, albeit in a very public space as a high-ranking minister representing the people of Australia. My memory banks now roared into action on the 20th of the 2nd, 2007, as reported by The Age and other mainstream media outlets, when the then Coalition Liberal leader and Prime Minister of Australia, John Howard, at the previous Pacific Island Forum held in Fiji in February 2007, reportedly rejected the request from the Prime Minister of Tuvalu, Maitea Tuafa, and I'm sorry if I got that pronunciation wrong, for a meeting regarding the escalating climate crisis. It was also reported here this was the second time in 6 years that such a request had been denied. These approaches were later said to have never happened, and the islands of Tuvalu and Kiribati continued to disappear underwater. Further research revealed that the Liberal and National parties held a strong position of denial regarding the emerging climate crisis. Evidence, when reported by The Age and others on the 5th of the 9th, 2002, when the then Prime Minister of Australia, John Howard, refused to ratify the Kyoto Protocol, which was an agreement that was designed to limit the output of greenhouse gas emissions, such as carbon dioxide. The reason given was because of economic reasons, ignoring the overwhelming evidence of the existential climate crisis that grew with every minute of political inaction. John Howard, still a Liberal, recently was recorded in an interview on Sky News and reported in The Australian, 29th of the 8th, 2023, and others in the mainstream media, saying that it was inappropriate for organisations such as the AFL, the Australian Football League, to attempt to enter the discussion regarding the referendum about the voice to Parliament, and that they ought to remain neutral, as Australians do not like to be bullied. He immediately launched into stating that he wants the referendum to be defeated, attempting to rally and incite and perhaps bully the no voters to respond in the run-up to the upcoming referendum with an aggressive nature, instructing them to maintain the rage. The coalition parties denied that the climate change was being accelerated by human activities, as reported by the ABC and others on the 9th of the 11th, 2009. On the 22nd of the 11th, 2013, Angus Taylor announced that the carbon tax that had been implemented by the previous Labor Party would be scrapped, fulfilling an election promise, and so the destruction of our climatic stability continued. And the much lauded carbon capture and storage program that was supposed to replace and outperform the carbon tax has still not been implemented or shown to work anywhere on the planet. The mining resource rent tax was repealed by the coalition of National and Liberal parties on the 2nd of the 9th, 2014. And $22 million was spent by the mining companies who allied with the coalition to sprint a relentless campaign of fear to get the coalition re-elected. 83% of these mining companies were owned by overseas interests and continued to post record profits following this event. These were all issues important for the Australian people, but the commentary from the coalition parties has been consistently no. Like we are all naughty, clueless children, and they always know what is best for us. Is this a deliberate tactical response being repeated here by members of the federal coalition? Or perhaps one of ongoing ignorance regarding the potential pain, hurt and damage to others on the receiving end of their no's? I cannot say. Maybe they don't care and it's all a cynical political game to regain and keep power. I have seen that if you're in a minority other than that of the extremely rich and powerful, you will not ever be served well by the coalition of the National and Liberal parties. And although females are about 51% of our population, the coalition parties will not even adopt gender parity within their own ranks. And I cannot accept that all National and Liberal women are less intelligent and or capable than the current room full of males. So if you are in a minority such as the young people of our country, the old, female, migrants, asylum seekers, unemployed, differently abled, non-English speaking, along with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders and others, I consider that it's too difficult for the current coalition to understand your plights, for they do not wish to listen. Only issue orders and create fear from their lofty perches. At this point, I commend some truly admirable Liberals, starting with Bridget Archer, a person of great courage, insight and integrity. Julian Leeser, a man who dared to go against the flow of coalition politics, and Ken Wyatt, who has seen the light. I apologise to others of the same ilk, but I don't know you. Your voices were too soft. I would have listened. To the many who wanted more than what is offered in this referendum, I agree with you, and trust that in time the momentum will build and we will be rewarded. This is the first time I've committed to doing anything like this. After researching the topic, I was getting angry at the whole situation. So I have now walked away many times to contemplate until my anger subsided. And now this is the result. A definition of insanity is to continually do the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. So my conclusion here is that something has to change. Whilst the proposed changes are at present being targeted towards the welfare of Indigenous people of Australia and of Torres Strait, I believe that with practice, listening and understanding could become valuable skills for all future governments, therefore creating better outcomes for all of us. Perhaps if we learn all new responses, come together, working in unison, we can create a land of great bounty for all. So to initiate change, we must first create space to listen, to respect and to appreciate the smallest of first steps, because all great journeys begin with one small step. With Makarrata treaties, first we must put aside our weapons and prepare to respectfully make space to listen, and then to respectfully respond, perhaps to be pleasantly surprised. We will never know unless we try. Our homeland is like a chain, only as strong as its weakest link. So I propose that we do some well overdue repairs. I will finish with a warning of the new invasion, climate change disasters. This affects us all. We all will have to change. We now have no choice. The first two protest marches I attended as a teenager were for better pay and working conditions for nurses, and to stop the wholesale destruction of our native forests and clear felling of farmland. 55 years later, both issues remain unsolved, mainly because the coalition parties have held power for most of that time, daring to label those true heroes who lived on platforms in the canopies and lay in front of bulldozers and refused to follow the demands of police who had been ordered to remove them by the ignorant politicians chasing dollars. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islands have been crying over the wanton destruction of this homeland for 250 years. Now is the opportunity to become one. Helping them is helping everybody. The Indigenous peoples from all parts of this continent and associated islands are proud, intelligent, resourceful, and above all else, resilient peoples, deserving honour and respect. Some of their culture differs from ours, and many of their ways are far superior to ours. The bottom line is that we are all people with cares and wants. We all experience joy and pain, and we are all capable of love and acceptance. Let's start this evolution of Australia with a yes vote on the 14th of the 10th. Thank you for your time.